So, here I am again, talking about yet another Marvel project. Miss Marvel. So here we go again. Miss Marvel is the newest Marvel Disney Plus show which follows the story of Kamala Khan, who basically gets these superpowers, and then throughout the show we see her trying to, cope with the new superpowers which she's got, whilst at the same time though, complications occur, and we also find out that these other people want her power for their own need. And that's basically the gist of Miss Marvel as a whole. And honestly, I found this show to be okay. I enjoyed the first, 2 or 3 episodes. But then, when I went off to Pakistan, and then when you found out about all the red daggers things, I don't really know if the red daggers or not, I don't really care. And when you find out about the different dimensions, like, for God's sake, we don't need to do all this again. Like, when you found out about all the mythology surrounding the bracelet which Kamala wears, I was like, I don't care whatsoever. And I think in the end, this show should have been just about Kamala, getting these superpowers and then trying to deal with them. That's what the first, 2 or 3 episodes was kind of about, and I was really enjoying that. It was kind of like Spider-Man Homecoming, and I really liked Spider-Man Homecoming. I mean, I didn't think it was as good as Spider-Man Homecoming, but I really liked the sort of like, the way they were showing everything. It was kind of like John Hughes-esque, and it was taking place in this high school, and I believed in the relationships, I believed in her friendships, I believed in her friendship with Bruno as well. I thought all that was done well, I thought it was a great chemistry between the cast. I really liked the family dynamic, I really liked just watching her story. I didn't need all the mythology stuff. I understand that was, to embrace the culture of the show, but at the same time though, like when they went off to Pakistan and when you found out about, Kamala's great grandparents, I was like, I don't care. I just want to watch a new Marvel project which focuses on one character for once. Instead of adding so much mythology and stuff like that and cosmology to the MCU, can we just have one Marvel project which just focuses on one Marvel character dealing with having a new power, instead of adding all these different worlds to the MCU? Instead of just having all this big world building, we just have one show which focuses on one character, maybe a group of characters at that, and they just have to face off against one big bad guy, and there's nothing else to it. Just one simple Marvel project, and that's what I thought the show was going to be in its first couple episodes. I was really enjoying it. I thought Kamala was going to be her own villain. Like, I understand that all these Marvel projects, whether it's the films or the TV shows, need to have a villain in there. And I thought the first episode was setting up the fact that perhaps Kamala was going to be her own villain, was going to, have to try and deal with herself and deal with this power in order to overcome who she really needs to be. That's what I thought the show was going to be about in its first episode. But then it introduced all these other characters, and it's like, what's this? And then, they're going about the Shadow Realm or something like that. I don't really care. And the red flags, and I just want to go, what? I didn't even know it's the red flags. It might be the red daggers, That's how interested I am in all the dimension stuff in this show. Because, like, I was watching going, are we doing this all over again? Are we going another dimension all over again? Didn't we just do something like this in Moon Knight about, a month ago or so? It feels very much like the MCU is too big for its own boot. And this is kind of off topic Miss Marvel, although it is related to Miss Marvel at the same time. But I feel that Miss Marvel is part of the ongoing Marvel problem in general. Like, ever since Endgame, the MCU's been kind of obsessed with making itself too big. And I do feel now that it's getting a bit overstuffed, and I also feel that's mass producing, which I'll get onto a bit later in this video. But the thing is with the MCU, ever since Endgame, we had, Shang-Chi. That opened up new worlds. There's a whole section of Shang-Chi, if I remember, when they go into like this different, mythical world. And then in Eternals, you see all the different worlds, things like that. There's a big celestial that's now in the sea somewhere, in the Earth, in the MCU, and no one's really talking about that anymore. Even so I don't like Eternals, you've still got to, adhere to it in the MCU. It's called the MCU for a reason. It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then it's Spider-Man No Way Home, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed Spider-Man Home quite a lot. That opened up the multiverse, though. And then Doctor Strange and the Multiverse Madness opened up the multiverse even more, to the point that I really don't care. And also, Loki Season 1 did that as well. All this stuff with the, the time variance all force in the TVA. And apparently Loki opened the multiverse in the finale of Loki Series 1. But then they're saying in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness that America Chavez did. But then saying in Spider-Man No Way Home that Doctor Strange, and I don't understand that. I don't understand who opened up the multiverse. Who did that? I'm still confused. But anyway, we got all this stuff going on the multiverse going on, and then at the same time, though, a couple of months ago, Moon Knight, we got all this stuff going on, like the Egyptian gods and the Egyptian mythology that's regarding that one character. I was just like, I don't care. And then in Thor: Love and Thunder, which only came out a couple of days ago now, that's going to all these different Asgardian planets, and I'm just like, whoa, just slow down. And on top of all that, on top of like the world building stuff, you've got all this stuff taking place in New York, in the Earth, on the MCU. You've got this stuff, Falcon Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and all this shite which I'm just not caring about anymore. And Ms. Marvel's part of that ongoing problem. Like, they open up all these different dimensions, and they mention mutation in the final episode. Spoiler there if you didn't know, but still. Yeah, they mention mutation in the final episode of this show, and I'm like, great, but now, we've got X-Men coming further down the line. That's another thing which is going to make the MCU even bigger now. We've got Eternals, we've got Shang-Chi, we've got Moon Knight, we've got the multiverse open up in multiple movies and a TV show, apparently. Although apparently it's not connected to that TV show, but apparently it is. In Loki, I don't really care. And now, in Ms. Marvel, we have dimensions opening up. For God's sake, it just seems too big for its own boots right now. I really wish that Marvel just do like a story about one superhero learning to use their powers, like the first Iron Man, and like Spider-Man Homecoming, and maybe have some connections to the rest of the MCU. Don't be wrong, Spider-Man Homecoming does. You have Tony Stark in that movie, you have Iron Man in that film. But it's still fun to watch, in my opinion, because in the end, it's just about a kid trying to deal with his powers. And that's what I wish Ms. Marvel's about. I wish Ms. Marvel, in the end, was just about this girl trying to deal with her powers, trying to go for this turmoil in high school, trying to deal with, having boyfriends and then potentially having superhero powers as well, even though that's not really my sort of, TV. At the same time, though, that's more interesting than all the mythology stuff and all the cosmology stuff and finding out about Kamala's great-grandparents. Why did I need to know about her great-grandparents? I don't understand that. Like, episode 5 of the show is all about, let's discover what happened in Kamala's past and how Kamala actually helped her great-grandparents. Like, I don't care. I just think the show should have been about Kamala and her friends and her family and how, her being a superhero affects them. Because, like, in the first episode of the show, we learn that Kamala's mother is very overprotective of Kamala, and then in the final episode though, she seems quite happy with the fact that she's now a superhero. She's kind of like, oh, that's great, and that's what her father's like as well, and I thought her father was very overprotective of her. Honestly, in the first episode, her mother wouldn't let her go to a VenderCon, and then in the final episode, she's fine with Kamala now having all these superpowers, and she's giving Kamala her suit, which, by the way, she just got out of nowhere. I didn't know you could go to the shops and buy yourself a new superhero suit, like, quite literally. I was very surprised by that. But anyway, if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about there. Hopefully, you've seen the show if you're watching this video. If you haven't, hopefully it's entertaining nonetheless, but still, yes, at the same time, though, I'm sitting there going, but I wanted the show just to be about them trying to get over Kamala having her power, because in the first episode it's kind of set up, okay, they're very protective of their daughter, they're not happy with the path she's taking, and if you cut out the stuff where they go to Pakistan, and you cut out the stuff when you're in dimensions and things like that, and stuff with the great-grandparents, then you have a more interesting story, in my opinion, much like Spider-Man Homecoming, but instead with a different character done in a more modern-day light. And even so the story isn't really my sort of thing, I find it more interesting than all the cosmology stuff that starts happening with the dimensions. I just would have liked to see more of Kamala dealing with her own, problems and complications when she goes through high school, when she potentially has that crush which she's attracted to, and has that bully which she has to try and get away from, and also has problems with friendships, and has problems with her family, and how her superhero powers kind of affect that. And the first episode of the show did that, which is why I think the show was okay overall, and the last episode kind of touched on that sort of stuff as well. But I just would like to see a bit more of it. Like in the last episode, when Kamala tells her family that she's now got superpowers, it's just kind of like a 30-second scene. It's like, oh, I wanted a bit more of that though. And another problem with this show, which again is another big problem with, the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, more with the Marvel Disney Plus TV shows, is the fact that it's 6 episodes long. And I had a problem with this, I know Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. Like, I even titled my review of Obi-Wan Kenobi, should have been a movie. And that's how I feel with Ms. Marvel. And Moon Knight as well. I've just thought about this right now, actually. Ms. Marvel and Moon Knight are very similar when you think about it. In your first episode, in the first 2 episodes of both shows, you see someone get their new superpower, and then you see them try to adjust just their new power, but then you also learn about the villain. There's someone who wants their power for their own need, and then you also learn about the cosmology regarding that power, the mythology regarding that power, things like that. And then in the 6th and final episode of both shows, you see both superheroes, whether it's been Moon Knight, you see Moon Knight, using his power remarkably well in the 6th and final episode of that show, and the same thing happens with Kamala Khan in the last episode of Ms. Marvel. You see both characters who struggled with using their powers at the start of both shows, using them remarkably well by the end of the series. I'm just kind of like, I would just like to see a bit more of them actually trying to just adjust to their powers, which is a term that goes on in their lives when they have the superpowers, instead of all this shit cosmology stuff and all this shit mythology stuff. I don't care anymore. I really don't. Like I said before, it should have been 6 episodes. I don't understand 6 episode TV shows, whether it's the Marvel or Star Wars stuff. It was one of my problems with Obi-Wan Kenobi. I enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi, but there was this fan edit recently, which I got to see a bit of, where someone edited the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show into a 2.5 hour film, and I thought it was done fantastically. I mean, I'd only seen about an hour of that. I watched it online late one night, but at the same time though, I was watching it going, this is working much better than the show, and I enjoyed the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. Would have worked better as a film though, and it's the same way I feel about Ms. Marvel. If you cut out all the stuff with the great-grandparents, you cut out all the stuff with, the dimensions, I feel you have quite a sweet and fun film on your hands. I don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be like amazing, things like that, and it wouldn't really be for my taste, but I'd probably enjoy it more than the thing we actually got in the end. I really would. And I don't understand 6 episode TV shows. Just make it into a film. The same way I kind of feel about Moon Knight. Moon Knight was 6 episodes. Why was that not a movie instead? Hawkeye should have been a movie. That was like 7 episodes, or maybe it was 6 episodes as well. I don't know. I'm losing track, and I'm losing the will to care as well. And this is another problem. Ms. Marvel has come out, 4 days after Thor: Love and Thunder came out, or something like that. It might be 5 days. Thor: Love and Thunder in the UK, where I live, came out last Thursday, and I'm interviewing Wednesday right now. And Ms. Marvel came out about a couple of days after Thor: Love and Thunder came out, which is fine, but it just kind of proves the fact that Marvel is mass producing right now. I didn't mind it so much a couple of years back, because sure you get like 3 Marvel movies a year, but they all kind of spread out. Nowadays, it feels like Marvel is always in the pop culture zeitgeist. It feels like it's always there, and we can't get away from it. I don't feel like enough people are talking about the new and original movies and TV shows, because Marvel's always occupying, it's always just there. Everyone's talking about it on Twitter, everyone's talking about it on like Instagram, Facebook and whatnot. Everyone's just talking about Marvel all the time nowadays. And Ms. Marvel is an example of massive producing with Marvel right now. It's kind of the same thing with Moon Knight. The last episode of Moon Knight aired was like days after Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, or as I like to call it, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Meandering came out, and no one was really talking about it enough, because there was too much Marvel stuff out at the same time. The more people, naturally, we're talking about the movie all the time. More people are going to talk about the newest Marvel movie, and it's the same thing here. I haven't heard many people talk about Ms. Marvel because the last episode of the show aired days after Thor: Love and Thunder came out, and I can guarantee you now, more people are going to go watch Thor: Love and Thunder because that's a new big movie release. People are going to watch a movie instead of a TV show. Also, people might not have Disney Plus, but they can go to the cinema quite easily, or most of the time they can. And this is the point I'm making. I haven't actually gotten to the point yet, but I will do very, very shortly. But the point I'm making is that I do feel Marvel mass producing. We've literally gone from having a show, Hawkeye, and the Spider-Man Home came out days after Hawkeye ended. And, with Doctor Strange, like I said before, Doctor Strange, came out the same week Moon Knight ended. And now Thor: Love and Thunder's come out the same week that Ms. Marvel's ended. It just feels like there's too much of it, and we need a break from it. It doesn't feel like we can really, sit down and reflect on how good or how bad that show was. And it's like, I feel like Marvel's always there at the moment, and we're not getting a break from it. It's really annoying me that. And Ms. Marvel is another example of that. I don't even make my point entirely well, because it's boiling outside, and I don't always think the best in the heat. I don't always get my point across the best, but the point I'm making, I just kind of feel like Ms. Marvel is an example of Marvel overproducing right now. It's that whole thing with, quantity over quality. I'm starting to notice more people are disliking more Marvel stuff recently. I don't know if that's just me, but I know before Endgame, a lot of people, the majority of people were liking the Marvel stuff, and then ever since Endgame came out, there's been this kind of discourse against Marvel a bit, which, it's fine, it's all subjective and things like that, but I just noticed that, for me personally, it's becoming more evident that Marvel is potentially doing more quantity over quality. I don't feel their films and their TV shows are up to the standards that they should be. I really don't. I just kind of feel like their films feel very episodic right now. It's one thing I didn't really talk about in regards to Thor: Love and Thunder. It felt very episodic, and so did Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Meandering. And also their Disney Plus shows kind of feel like they're just another piece in the ongoing, ever incomplete jigsaw puzzle, which is the MCU right now. And I'm getting a bit bored of it. I don't even can tell. I get a bit tired of it all. I'm genuinely thinking that I might stop watching the Marvel Disney Plus shows. I might watch She-Hulk if I hear it's great, and if I hear that, like, episode 5, if I hear that's penultimate episode is gearing itself up for a fantastic finale, I might watch She-Hulk. But honestly, after watching Miss Marvel, and just showing that it kind of feels like, I don't know, it feels like another piece of the ongoing puzzle, like I said before, which is the ever incomplete jigsaw puzzle of the MCU. After watching Miss Marvel, I'm struggling to care about the MCU anymore. I really am. It's just, in my opinion, more evidence that Marvel is overproducing that whole thing with quantity over quality, and also it's more evidence that Marvel's getting too big for its own boots and it can't handle itself at the moment, and I just kind of feel that it's evidence of another Marvel Disney Plus show which should have been a film. It's an evidence of another Disney Plus show should have been a movie as well. And like, even some Disney Plus shows which I've seen in the past, which are like 6 or 7 episodes, which I really enjoy, like The Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, even I can say as fans of both of those shows and goes, that should have been a movie. That's all I'm saying, and I feel the same about Miss Marvel. I don't mind Miss Marvel, one of the better Marvel Disney Plus shows in my opinion. I don't think it's as good as Loki Series 1, because I don't think it, embraces identity as much as Loki Season 1 did in my opinion, but I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed the first 3 episodes, and I kind of enjoyed the last episode, but overall, I don't know. It just kind of feels a bit incomplete, because it's another piece, like I said, of this ongoing Marvel jigsaw puzzle, which will never be complete, because it's going to keep going on and on and on and on and on. Much like this review today, it's going to keep going on and on and on. And I don't know where it's going. And I'm losing the will to care. Even Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is my second most anticipated movie for 2023, even Guardians of the Galaxy 3 now, I'm getting less excited about that, because I'm worried it's going to open up even more worlds and just make the MCU even bigger. And I understand that, if the movie works in itself or the TV show works in itself, what's your problem? But at the end, they're all part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's a reason it's called the MCU. And there's a reason that a film like The Batman is not part of a wider universe. And that's one of the reasons I kind of like that film so much. But anyway, I've already spoken about that in a video I made yonks ago, but still, nevertheless, I kind of like this show. It was alright to watch. It was fun to watch, in my opinion. Normally this sort of show wouldn't be my sort of thing, but still, I did enjoy it. I think there's a great chemistry in the cast. I believed in the family dynamic. I think all performances are great. I think Amanda Villani was fantastic as Miss Marvel. I really enjoyed watching her. I thought the aesthetic of the show was brilliant. I thought it was well made, well directed. It kind of stylized. It kind of like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World way in its first episode. And it's a well made show. But I feel like I'm saying that about every single Marvel Disney Plus show right now. And I wish that I wasn't. And it just kind of feels like they were mushing together. And I'm getting a bit sick of it all. Like, don't be wrong, I will still watch the Marvel movies because they're the movies and I like going to the cinema. And so there'll be something to watch at the cinema when they come out. Like Black Panther 2 I'll still watch because it'll be a cinematic release. But still, with the Disney Plus TV shows, I don't know. I'm just kind of losing the will to actually be interested in whatsoever. And that's kind of how I feel about Miss Marvel. I enjoyed it, but there's just something about it that makes me think, yeah, it's kind of exemplifying everything that's wrong with the MCU right now. And sorry if you hear a bike outside right there, by the way. And sorry if it sounds like I'm a bit out of breath because I just had to go answer the door. But still, nevertheless, I just feel like Miss Marvel is kind of exemplifying everything that's kind of wrong with the MCU right now. And one of the many reasons that I'm not really enjoying the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the moment. But nevertheless, Miss Marvel was okay. It was one of the better Marvel Disney Plus shows. And yeah, it should have been better, but I didn't mind for what it was. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Miss Marvel, I'm going to say that it's a 6 out of 10. I should say, like I always say, if you enjoyed the show and if you loved it, that is absolutely absolutely fantastic. I wish I loved it, and I wish I didn't have all these problems with the MCU. And I know this video has been more about my problems with the MCU and less about my view of Miss Marvel, but it's something I just wanted to vent out. And that's what I do on this channel. I just vent out things I want to talk about. It's just something I just want to get off my chest. Because it's like, Thor and Thunder made me realise all these problems as well. It wasn't just Miss Marvel, it's kind of both these things. I was like, it just feels like too much. Like, She-Hulk comes out at the end of August or something like that. It comes out like the middle of August. There's barely any gap between both. And it's like, for God's sake. You know, it's a whole from a quantity over quality, and I do feel like Marvel is kind of overshadowing some of like the, you know, other non-franchise movies or small independent films right now. Like, I don't feel enough people talking about Elvis because more people talking about Thor and Thunder because that's the biggest Marvel release. You know, and I can't recommend Elvis enough. It's my favourite movie of the year. I love Elvis. I've seen it 4 times now. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And also, I don't think enough people really talk about Everything Ever All at Once. Like, don't be wrong, it's like A24's biggest release, but still, at the same time, though, it's by far the best multiverse movie of the year so far. And I don't feel enough people really talk about it in that regard. In regards to Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, I don't feel that enough people really compared both, because Everything Ever All at Once was a far better movie. And also there's a Northman as well, which I thought was amazing. Not enough people talked about that in my opinion. The Phantom of the Open was one of the most wonderful films I've seen in the past couple of years, and not enough people talked about that because they're just talking about Marvel stuff. And that's why I do on this channel, because if I don't talk about Marvel stuff, by the way, this is why I always talk about Marvel stuff on the channel. One day I haven't said yet. But you know, the thing is, why I always talk about Marvel stuff on the channel, even so, you know, it's not really for me most of the time, I always keep talking about the latest Marvel film, the latest Marvel Disney Plus show, because if I don't talk about it, I'm left out of the movie and TV conversation for so long. Because it just occupied the movie and TV conversation for months on end. I do feel it kind of takes away from attention to non-franchise properties. And I know this is all coming from me, as someone who actually loved the Batman, which is obviously a big franchise property. But the thing is about the Batman is it was special because it was a one of a kind. There'd been so much effort and so much thought put into that movie. And I just, you know, there wasn't anything after that was regarding that movie, like just after that. Like, as soon as Thor and Thunder comes out, Miss Marvel ends, and then She-Hulk is right down the line. Whereas with the Batman, that came out. There's nothing regarding Matt Reeves' Batman right now that's coming out anytime soon, and I love that. Like, I know the Penguin TV show's in the works, but it didn't come out like a month after the Batman came out, and if it did, it would made the Batman feel less special, which is kind of how I feel about Miss Marvel, actually. You know, the fact that She-Hulk is coming so soon after, it makes Miss Marvel feel less special, because I'm like, yeah, in a couple of weeks' time, everyone's talking about She-Hulk, and that just kind of makes me feel like, why did I get so invested in this show overall? And it's again another big problem. It really is. And again, I like the show. It's my second favourite of the Marvel Disney Plus shows that I've seen. But I do feel that when the show opens with all these different dimensions, and when it mentions the mutation in its final episode, I'm like, it's making the MCU too big with its own beats again. It really is. And this show is exemplifying again, like I said before, that Marvel is massive producing that whole thing with quantity over quality. You know, say a little about the DCEU. But I actually kind of like it when a new DC film comes out, because I know it would be different than when the last DC film came out. Like, say well about the Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman 1984, but they're two very different movies in style and in terms of direction, and I kind of like that. I'm not saying that the quality of either of those movies is brilliant in terms of writing, but I just kind of like that they're both different. But in the end, it does kind of feel like they're cutting and pasting now. They're just getting out big studio projects, and it's annoying me. Miss Marvel, in my opinion, is evidence of the ongoing problem with the MCU right now, and I'm going to stop rambling, because I'm going to get myself too annoyed, and I dare say already bored this review nonetheless. But still, overall, back onto Miss Marvel. I enjoyed about 4 out of 6 episodes of the show overall. It wasn't bad. It was okay, in my opinion. It was watchable. I didn't mind it. The cast did a great job. It was well made. But it's more evidence of the ongoing problem with the MCU right now, in my opinion. That's just kind of the way I view it. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Miss Marvel, I'm going to say that's a 6 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what do you think of Miss Marvel and my thoughts on the state of the MCU right now? Please do comment down below and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and subscribe on this video. I look forward to many more, both film and TV reviews, come very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon. Bye for now. Bye.